You know, there isn't much that freaks me out worse than a damn creepy clown, but unless you're at the circus or a birthday party, then you're usually safe. Well, not anymore. This girl Quinn here just moved to a new town where it seems like all of the adults are out to get her, and there's a red-nosed psycho who's slowly picking off her friends one at a time. His costume might be corny, but he's hell-bent on getting the last laugh, and that's why we're here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat Frendo the Clown in Clown in a Cornfield. This clown didn't just come here to harvest crops, he came to harvest souls. The story begins back in 1991 in the small town of Kettle Springs, Missouri, where a group of local teenagers are throwing a party out behind an old barn. One of the girls winds up a tiny jack-in-the-box until a creepy little clown jumps out from inside, waving it at her crush as he follows her into the cornfield. But, that was his biggest mistake. It doesn't take long before he loses sight of her in the corn, and as he's looking around, he notices a giant clown shoe-shaped footprint in the mud. It's absolutely bizarre, but just when he starts to worry, Jessica here jumps out and grabs him by the shoulder, only everything's not as chill as it seems. Suddenly she coughs up blood all over the guy's face before collapsing to the ground, leaving him completely stunned as he tries to figure out what happened. That's when he hears something else headed his way, and takes off running through the field as he sees it coming towards him, only to get caught slipping when he almost crashes into a scarecrow. Panicking, he tries to get back up, but by then it's already too late, and all of a sudden, an evil clown emerges from the darkness, brutally impaling him with a pitchfork as it lifts him high above the cornstalks, and making 2 down with 8 more to go. Alright, I guess the children of the corn grew up and went to clown college, because these two just got smoked by Pennywise's Midwestern cousin, and that's why their first mistake was being a bunch of drunk in a cornfield. That's obviously a horror movie cliche, but I'm actually dead ass, because we all know that alcohol delays your reflexes, and for the average person, even 2 or 3 drinks is enough to slow down your reaction time by like 25%. Now you can't blame the guy for not expecting any danger, but the giant clown shoe footprint should have really been his first warning. I don't know what kind of shoes the girl was wearing, but I'm positive they weren't like that, so unless his date suddenly transformed into Ronald McDonald or something, or worse, the Grimace, then this should have been an immediate red flag. Over millions of years of human evolution, our ancestors' brains evolved to quickly spot any weird things in our environment, and nothing could be more out of place than somebody wearing clown shoes in the middle of a damn cornfield. As soon as he realized that they weren't alone, he needed to get his guard up and be ready to scrap, so he wouldn't be taken by surprise when the trouble went down. And I mean, it was already pretty late in the game by the time he saw the clown headed his way, and he actually made the right choice by deciding to run. The only problem was he ran in the wrong direction. Now, from this far in the corn, he probably couldn't see the barn, but he could definitely still hear the noise from the party, so that was his moment to nut up and follow the sound of their voices back to the group, where he could use the rest of his friends as meat shields. Yeah, like I know we homies, but you my meat shield. You dig? The worst part is that it's a race he absolutely could have won. This clown might be creepy up close, but he's wearing ridiculous shoes, a bulky costume, and a mask that hurts his visibility, so losing him in the cornfield should be light work. But this guy was such a scrub that he couldn't outrun a grandma stuck in quicksand. And that's now why he won't live long enough to see grunge music go out of style. In the present day, this high school senior Quinn and her father Glenn move to town after he takes a job as its new doctor. But she's not exactly feeling the small town charm, and when she looks out of her bedroom window, it's like she's constantly being watched by the creepy clown painted on the abandoned factory. The next morning, Quinn's father encourages her to make some new friends, but by the end of the day, he's already going to regret that advice. Just as she's about to leave, he bumps into their neighbor Rust waiting at the door. He's another senior from class who heard they were new in town and says that he stopped by hoping to walk Quinn to school. As they're walking through the neighborhood, the girl keeps noticing some of the elderly residents staring her down, as if they're suspicious of her just for being there. She makes it to class a few minutes late after getting the wrong room number, and their petty-ass teacher immediately gives her detention even though it's not her fault. To her surprise, the local cool guy Cole here tries to stick up for her, but he ends up getting detention as well, along with all of his friends. After class, the girl introduces herself to Cole and the other troublemakers, explaining how she just moved here from the city. It turns out that Cole's family started the local corn syrup empire, making them something like town royalty. Every year, the town hosts a Founders Day festival in honor of the company, and at the center of it all is the factory's mascot, FRENDO the clown. As for the kids here, they've taken FRENDO and turned him into a fictional killer on their YouTube channel, but soon their harmless pranks are about to become a reality. Later that day, Quinn goes to the diner to meet with her father, but just like before, the waitress keeps giving her dirty looks. They're minding their own business when the sheriff walks in and introduces himself, mentioning how the town's been suffering ever since the local factory burned down. The girl's new friend spots her through the window, but the sheriff here warns her to stay away from them, insisting that Cole and his buddies are bad news. Feeling awkward, her father invites the man to sit at their table, and Quinn decides to get up and leave, noticing that something about the sheriff feels off. Leaving the diner, she follows her friends to their hangout spot at the old junkyard. But while they're all gathered around the fire, the group's musclehead Matt here announces that he has to pee. Curious, she asks about the old factory, learning that Cole and the others snuck inside to film one of their videos on the same night as the fire. And even though it was eventually ruled to be an accident, everyone in town still thinks that they were responsible. All of a sudden, Chris comes running back to the fire with his guts spilling out of his stomach, and as the others look on in horror, the killer clown comes shambling around the corner and starts slashing at them with his scythe. Terrified, Quinn immediately goes to run, but Cole jumps up and stops her, revealing that it was just another prank for their channel.
Somebody needs to tell these kids to stop clowning around. They might not realize it yet, but what they're doing here is actually a big mistake. You see, the problems all started with what happened at the old factory and how everyone in town still thinks that Cole and his homies were responsible. That factory was the main source of income for most people who live out there, and it's like become sort of a symbol for the spirit of the town itself. So losing it was like losing a core part of the community. When something bad happens, people naturally look for an explanation, and since Cole and his friends were already known for causing trouble, that made them the perfect idiots to take the blame, even if they were totally innocent. After that night, the adults in town started viewing the kids as dangerous outsiders. And that's why, ever since then, it feels like everyone over the age of 30 has it out for them. Now, they could have tried to fix their local image by doing some volunteer work or at least behaving themselves in school, but instead they've been constantly spending time in detention and pulling pranks just to aggravate the adults even more. And that's why the worst thing that they could have possibly done is kept posting these killer clown pranks to their YouTube channel. It's like the real-life story of the boy who cried wolf, or I guess the kids who cried clown. When somebody has a track record of being an internet prankster, other people are going to be suspicious of everything that they do. So when the real killer clown actually shows up, nobody is going to believe a word they say. Instead of using their channel with 65,000 subscribers purely for their own benefit, what Cole and his friends should do is start using the platform to raise money for the people who lost their jobs because of the fire, giving them a chance to repair their image with the rest of the town. That way, the adults will be much more willing to help if they end up in any real trouble. Otherwise, Quinn here needs to ditch her new friends and start hanging out with the kids from the chess club instead, because they only have a matter of hours before the killer clown starts pranking them.
Later, Quinn gets a chance to talk to Cole one-on-one, bonding over the trauma of recently losing a family member. Her mother tragically passed away over the summer, and Cole lost his sister in an accident around the same time. But they're interrupted when Janet here says that they need to get back to the video. Cole drives her home at the end of the night, and sure enough, the two of them end up making out, but it doesn't take long before they're caught by her dad. He's not happy to see who his daughter's been hanging out with and warns the kid to leave her alone, even though Cole swears that he's not trying to cause any trouble. Hurt, Quinn storms inside and rushes up to her room, throwing herself onto the bed just as she gets a notification on her phone. It's a group chat with the video that her friends just posted, but as she watches it, she notices something incredibly bizarre. Zooming in on the background, she can clearly see another, even creepier clown watching them from behind a pile of old junk. And thinking that it is strange, she immediately takes a screenshot and sends it to her friends. Meanwhile, Tucker here is at home when he sees the message. He gets a notification that there's someone at his front door. When he opens the camera, he's shocked to find a person in full clown gear staring back on the other end. But of course, he immediately assumes that it's just his buddies playing one of their pranks. Grabbing a water gun, he slowly creeps up from the basement and starts searching the entire house one room at a time. There's no sign of trouble until he reaches the front door, but he's surprised to see that it's already been forced open. And there's a trail of broken glass and bloody clown shoe-shaped prints leading up to the second floor, and quickly goes to investigate, still believing that it's one of his friends. There's still no trace of anyone there, but when he reaches his bedroom, he notices that someone left plastic sheets all over the floor. The only place left to check is the closet, but when he opens it up, he finds a collectible Jack-in-the-Box from the old corn syrup factory. He winds the handle until the creepy little clown pops out, admitting to whoever's doing this that it's actually starting to scare him. But when he closes the door again, that's when the killer finally strikes, lunging at Tucker and slicing his throat before he even knows what hit him, and wrapping him up in the plastic sheet as he quickly bleeds to death. That makes 3 down with 7 more to go.
Alright, it looks like Tucker here just got tucked in by their old buddy Frendo the Clown. Buddy here didn't even realize that he was in trouble until it was already too late. But if he had any sense of danger whatsoever, then he would have seen this coming from like a mile away. Let's rewind back to the basement and the text from Quinn. Now obviously a random creepy clown showing up in the background of their video is a massive red flag, or at least it should have been, but that's their problem. Tucker here had no way to tell a joke from reality because his friends are constantly pulling pranks, and that's also why he didn't see the danger when the clown showed up at his front door. Filming these videos with his friends has left him completely desensitized to threatening behavior. Now if he was being smart, then there might have been an easy way to tell if it was really one of his friends or not. He could have tried just calling each of their cell phones, that way the ringtone might give away where they were hiding, and if somebody picked up, then he might have figured out from their confused tone that it wasn't actually a prank, giving him a much better chance at survival. You know what I'm saying here? Now with all that being said, breaking into your friend's house and leaving bloody footprints on the ground seems like it's going a little bit too far, even for these kids. I mean, that moment was like pretty much his last chance to make the right decision and save his own life. And if he wasn't so clueless, then instead of following the footprints upstairs, he should have run straight out the front door and used his phone to call for help. Like if he was determined to investigate the noise, then he obviously should have grabbed a better weapon than a water gun. But then again, if he actually thought that there was any real danger, then there'd be no point in checking it out when he could have just escaped. The truth is that he had plenty of opportunities to get away, but he was so brainwashed by the constant pranks from his friends that he never even saw it coming. And even if the Dexter Morgan-style plastic sheets on the floor weren't enough to scare him, then I honestly don't think that there was any chance of him getting out of this alive.
The next day, Cole's father, Arthur, gives a big speech to kick off the festival like he does every year, and Quinn finds the other girls somewhere in the crowd. When she asks about the mysterious clown from the video, they suggest that it might be Rust, explaining how he's got some kind of beef with Cole. Speaking of her crush, he comes to join them a moment later, and Janet says that it's the perfect opportunity to film one of their videos. Putting her on his shoulders for a better angle, he invites Quinn to a party later that night, and they agree to meet up even though her dad will not allow it. That's when their friend Matt comes riding down the street on a unicycle, wearing nothing but a Speedo and a clown mask, and juggling a couple of fake bombs. It's all fun and games until one of the deputies comes to kick him out, but in the scuffle, he accidentally drops one of the fireworks onto the big Frendo float, and it immediately goes up in flames, sending the mascot crashing to the ground as panic breaks out among the crowd. The adults of this town are absolutely furious, and of course they immediately blame Quinn and her friends for what happened, even though it was technically just an accident. But that doesn't stop the sheriff from hauling all 4 of them down to the station. There's nothing that they can do to get out of it, and Quinn worries that her dad is going to kill her when he finds out. But that's when this random old man sitting in the corner pipes up out of nowhere, warning the girl that it's not her father she needs to worry about, it's Frendo the Clown. Sometime later, the sheriff finally comes to let them out, and Quinn finds her dad waiting for them in front of the new station. The worst part is that he was already planning on surprising her with a new Jeep after the parade, and was even going to teach her how to drive stick as a father-daughter activity. But now it seems like getting arrested really killed the vibe. Meanwhile, their buddy Matt here is busy working out in his garage while he gets ready for the party. He's surprised to find a mysterious Jack-in-the-Box sitting on the bench when he turns around, but just like his buddy Tucker, he assumes assumes that it's probably his friends trying to prank him. He spins the handle around a few times until he eventually gets bored and tosses it in the trash. But just as he's starting another set, the killer clown suddenly appears right behind him, grabbing onto the bar with a hacksaw in his hands. Horrified, Matt tries his best to hold him back, but he's not strong enough to stop it, as the killer pushes down as hard as he can, chopping off his head with one deadly strike, and launching it into a nearby cooler to save for later. That makes 4 down, with 6 more to go.
Alright, I can tell you one thing, you do not want this clown as a spotter. Matt here, he let his guard down because he still didn't know that Frendo was out for blood, and there's only one key detail that should have told him something was wrong. Nobody's heard from Tucker since last night. They're all acting like it's no big deal, but remember, he suddenly went quiet right after Quinn sent the screenshot of that creepy clown. I mean, the timing of that is extremely suspicious, and it's also weird that he'd be ducking everyone on the day of the big parade, when it seems like an event that he wouldn't want to miss. Now, with that being said, finding the Jack-in-the-Box would have been a red flag to anyone else, but just like with Tucker, Matt here was already conditioned to think that anything clown-related was just a harmless prank. But for really though, if he thought that somebody was in his garage, then he should have taken out his noise-canceling headphones, and then he might have heard the clown's squeaky-ass shoes and snuck up behind him. After already doing a few reps, there's no way he was going to overpower the clown. What he could have done instead was quickly tilt the bar to the side, causing the weights to fall off on one end. This would cause the clown to lose his grip, and the bar might even hit him in the face as one end of it whips back up. I mean, it's incredibly risky, but at least it might have given him a fighting chance. There's one thing that both of the crime scenes have in common. Both times, the killer used a bacon corn syrup Jack-in-the-Box as a distraction. He also dresses himself exactly like the clown mascot, and that's not just a coincidence. It means that whoever's doing this has access to old promotional material from the company, so if I were them, I'd be suspicious of anyone who used to work at the factory or like has a weird obsession with Frendo the clown. Now back at the jail, the old man directly told them not to with Frendo, and that's way too specific to be a coincidence. Although he doesn't seem like the most reliable source, I'd try to find out what he knows, because if they're able to pin down a suspect, then they might be able to find the clown before he strikes again.
Later that night, Quinn gets a text from Cole asking if she's coming to the party. Hesitating, she replies that it's probably not a good idea, but decides to go for it anyway when he says that he's already outside. Sneaking downstairs, the girl quietly makes her way past her father, who's snoring on the couch with the TV still flickering in the background. And after making sure that he's really asleep, she goes outside to meet up with Cole, having no idea that they're headed straight for a bloodbath. As they're headed to the party, Cole gives her a novelty Jack-in-the-Box as a gift, but while they're both distracted, they almost crash straight into Rust as he's carrying a deer across the road. There's clearly some tension between the two of them, as Cole mentions that they used to be good friends, but he drives off before the conversation gets too personal. The party is already in full swing by the time that they arrive, but it isn't long before they notice that Tucker and Matt are both missing. Thinking that it must be another prank, they decide to not worry about them for now. But little do they know that both of their friends are already dead. After dancing for a while, Quinn pulls her crush over to the shed to go make out, but to her surprise, he keeps insisting that they need to slow down. Embarrassed, she gets up to leave, only for Cole here to jump in front of her and block the door, acting weirdly tense in a way that's not like himself. But she quickly ducks under his arm and rushes back to the party. Back at the bonfire, Janet here comes up and gets in her face, saying that Cole played her just like every other girl in town. But just when they're about to throw hands, they hear a blood-curdling scream come from somewhere in the cornfield. Just then, one of the girls from their class staggers into the clearing and topples to the ground with an arrow sticking out of her back. Of course, these three still think that it's just a prank, but everything changes when someone throws Matt's decapitated head right at her feet. Somehow, the other two girls still don't sense any danger, but as Quinn takes a closer look, she's horrified to discover that the girl is really dead. And that's when a crossbow-wielding clown appears from out of the cornfield, laughing as he gets ready to crash the party.
Okay, I guess the clown here thought taking shots meant something else. Now, this right here is exactly why Quinn should have trusted her instincts instead of getting suckered into her new friend's messed up way of thinking. They're probably the only people in town who could see a girl come walking out of the woods with a damn arrow sticking out of her back and still think the whole thing was some kind of a prank. Their reaction here was not ordinary, but screaming and running for your life is, and if Quinn was really an independent thinker like she claims to be, then she'd have already been halfway back to Philly by now. Now they've got nowhere to run, and the clown is ready to fire, but the good news is that he only has one shot before he needs to reload, and Quinn here has two friends. The way I see it, there's an easy solution here. Since there's nowhere left for her to go, I would just dive to the right and use the other two girls as meat shields, letting them take the first hit instead. I don't know what this psycho clown has against them, but since Quinn's only been in town for one day, clearly it has more to do with them than it does with her, so they can be the ones to get killed first as far as I'm concerned. Now, the clown is clearly after Quinn and her friends, but they're not his only targets, and that's good news, because it means that everyone else at the party is fair game. When he stops to reload after firing the next shot, Quinn should run for the rest of the crowd and try to use everyone else as cover. It already looks like most of them are running to the barn, but blindly following them inside would be like a huge mistake. The barn might provide some cover, but the absolute last thing that you want is to end up stuck in there. So once she gets the opportunity, she needs to get as far away from this freak as possible, and that's why her main priority should be finding Cole and using his car to get the f*** out of there. Although it's dangerous, they could use the moment while he's reloading as a chance to attack him instead, using glass bottles, folding chairs, and anything else that they can find to take him down. But doing that would be incredibly risky, so personally, I'd say fighting him for a last resort and stay focused on trying to escape for now.
While Quinn and her friends stand there paralyzed by fear, one of the partygoers sees FRENDO coming and tries to say hello, only to catch an arrow straight through the dome before he even knows what happened. This gives the others a chance to run for their lives, but Janet here immediately crashes into a trash can, and it looks like she's about to be crossbowed next. Coming to the rescue, Quinn holds up the lid like a Captain America shield just in time, blocking a shot that would have gone straight through the girl's chest. The others lock them out before they have a chance to get inside the barn, forcing them to run around the back instead. But as they come around the corner, they almost crash straight into Rust, who's blocking the path with a shotgun in his hands. Telling the girls to get down, he fires a shot directly into the clown's chest, killing him as he's sent flying backwards from the force of the blast, but they aren't safe yet. They don't have any service to call for help, and the clown already sabotaged all of their cars, leaving them trapped with no way to get out of there. Thinking that the worst is over, they're about to remove his mask when they hear a chainsaw revving up in the distance. And all of a sudden, at least 7 more FRENDOs emerge from the cornfield and start charging towards them, all armed to the teeth with machetes and other brutal weapons. Stepping forward, Rust levels his shotgun and blows one of their hands clean off, but his clown compadres press the attack and keep coming after them. Swinging at her with a baseball bat, one of them knocks Quinn to the ground, but Cole suddenly appears and drops him with a shovel, saving her life just in time. Outnumbered, their only choice is to run for the shed, and they're able to get inside with only seconds to spare. They may be safe for now, but it's only a matter of time before the clowns get in, and with no way to call for help, they'll have to think of another plan fast. That's when Janet here remembers that the nearest house is about a mile away through the cornfields, but they'll never make it with the clowns blocking the door.
Alright, we should have known these clowns were going to roll deep. I mean, they can fit like 100 of them into one of those tiny little cars, so it shouldn't be too surprising that Crossbow FRENDO wasn't alone. Now they're trapped inside with the rest of his pissed off friends knocking down the door, but even though it's an intimidating situation, their odds might not be as bad as they think. When the other clowns appeared from the cornfield, I counted 7, and after Rust blew one of their hands off, that brought their numbers down to only 6. This means they're almost even in terms of group strength, and it would still be a tough battle if the clowns were the only ones with weapons. But the key thing to remember is that now they're only using short-ranged weapons, and with just his shotgun, Rust here could pretty much take on the whole crowd by himself. According to Rust, he still has 3 shells left, so if he uses them wisely, that's 3 guaranteed kills on the clowns, cutting their numbers in half and giving Quinn's group the advantage. So hear me out, here's what they need to do. First, everyone who isn't armed needs to grab any kind of weapons that they can find, and it looks like this shed should have plenty of them to farm tools from. Then I'd pour a bunch of gasoline in a puddle right near the entrance, and station someone near the back window to smash it out when they need to escape. As soon as the clowns break in, they can light the puddle, causing their costumes to catch on fire. And in all the chaos, Rust can use his last 3 shells to take 3 of them out, aiming for the chainsaw guy first, since he has the deadliest weapon. From there, the best fighters can hold off the remaining clowns while their friends escape through the emergency exit. And if they do it right, then they can quickly flip the numbers so that they have more fighters than the clowns, allowing them to work together to take down whoever's left. What do you guys think?
One of the clowns tries breaking through the wall and Rust fires back with 2 blasts from his shotgun, but Cole here flips out on him for wasting ammo, and as the argument gets more personal, the girls suddenly realize why he's always turned them down. It turns out that Cole and Rust have secretly had a thing for each other all along, but he's always felt too conflicted to fully embrace it. The fight causes Quinn to notice a drainage ditch at the back of the shed, and although it's absolutely disgusting, it's just big enough for them to escape Shawshank Redemption style, but they'll need a distraction, or else the clowns will catch them. And the pile of flammable chemicals stacked in the corner gives Rust another idea. Meanwhile, back in town, Quinn's father realizes that the girl snuck out, and he's driving around the neighborhood trying to find her when he notices that someone broke into his clinic. Checking it out, he's caught by surprise when a clown emerges from the shadows and holds a knife up to his neck, but they aren't looking to kill him just yet. Instead, the clown forces him into the back room where his friend with the missing hand is slowly bleeding out, ordering the doctor to save his life or else Quinn has to pay the price. Loading the fuel onto a lawnmower, Rust hands Cole his shotgun as they get ready to escape through the drain, promising that he'll follow them as soon as he can. Lighting the fuse, he puts the lawnmower into drive just as the clowns finally break through the door. Until an instant later, they're all sent flying by the massive explosion, stunning them just as Quinn and her friends get to safety. It looks like Rust didn't make it out, and Cole here wants to go back and save him, but the girls convince him that there's no time, and they escape into the cornfield while the clowns are still getting back on their feet. After a while, they finally reach the road just in time to see a pair of headlights coming their way, but their relief turns to fear as the car throws on its siren and they realize that it's the sheriff. The girls desperately try to explain what happened, but he obviously doesn't believe a word they say, and refusing to hear them out, he immediately throws Cole in handcuffs and drags him back to the station, leaving the others to fend for themselves. Stranded, it looks like their only choice is to go for the neighbor's house again, but Robbie here hesitates before following her friends back into the cornfield, convinced that it's only a matter of time before the clowns kill her next.
Alright, this is pretty much a worst case scenario. And it's exactly why earning a reputation as internet pranksters wasn't really a good idea. Under normal conditions, the sheriff would be exactly who they wanted to see. But since the law enforcement here in town already thinks of them as troublemakers, it looks like Quinn and her friends are kind of on their own. Now, their plan to escape worked surprisingly well, but if they had already been thinking one step ahead, then there was actually a way that they could have attracted outside help and taken care of the rest of the clowns all in one move. After the shed explosion, the clowns were still concussed, and it took them a while to get back on the offensive. This gave Quinn and her friends plenty of time to run, but they were in such a hurry that they missed a golden opportunity. Instead of running until they hit the road, they could have gone through into the corn just far enough to break their line of sight, and then circled back in an upside-down J shape so that they'd end up flanking their own trail. If they hid their tracks well enough and stayed quiet, the clowns might eventually run past them, assuming that they went deeper into the cornfield. Then Quinn and her friends could have gone back to the fire pit and used some burning logs to light the whole cornfield on fire. Not only would this trap the clowns inside, leaving them no way to get back to the barn and possibly taking all of them out, but it would also act as a huge smoke signal to any fire and police departments for miles around, meaning that extra help would be on the way besides just their corrupt sheriff. This would have taken some quick thinking, but it would actually be a much better plan than just running blindly through the cornfield, and in just a minute, they're gonna find out why.
The girls try their best to stay as quiet as they can as they sneak across the field, but it doesn't take long before they're ambushed by the chainsaw-wielding clown. Running for their lives, the other clowns eventually cut off their path, and with nowhere left to go, they decide to try hiding instead. Terrified, they crouch down in between the corn stalks with the clowns searching for them just a few feet away, until suddenly one of them reaches over and covers Quinn's mouth with his hand, forcing her to bash him in the skull with a nearby rock as the three of them escape. This time, Robbie ends up at the front of the pack, but her worst fears come true as she accidentally runs straight into the clown's chainsaw, and he brutally cuts her apart as the others flee in the opposite direction. That makes 5 down, with 5 more to go. When they finally make it to the house, they're horrified to find another clown sitting in the living room, but strangely, it looks like this one's already dead. That's when a phone rings somewhere upstairs, and the girls quickly run to answer it, but by the time that they get there, someone's already cut in line. Looking around, they realize that the owner of the house had all of their pictures pinned to the wall, and there's even a jack-in-the-box sitting on top of a stack of papers, causing Quinn to realize that they were lured there on purpose. Running back downstairs, they're horrified to discover that the dead clown is still very much alive, and he suddenly charges at them with a pitchfork, piercing Janet straight through the chest and zapping her with an electrical outlet on the ceiling. Thinking quickly, Quinn shatters a glass vase over her head, but it's already too late to save her friend, and pulling the pitchfork out of the girl's mouth, she rams it into the clown's chest just as he returns for another attack. That makes 6 down with 4 more to go as her friend dies from her injuries, but there's no time to waste as Quinn grabs the keys and runs for the owner's truck. Back at the clinic, Glenn makes it look like the injured clown is starting to flatline, but as soon as the other one lets his guard down, the doctor grabs his knife and jams it straight into the man's neck, ignoring his warnings not to pull it out. The clown takes out the blade only to fall dead on the floor just a moment later, and picking up his radio, he learns that the others are planning to take his daughter to the abandoned factory. Running to the nearest truck, she makes it there only to find out that it's a stick shift, leaving her with nowhere to go as the clowns quickly move in to surround her, and suddenly one of them bursts through the back window, pulling her away as everything goes black.
God damn, so much for that plan. I don't think I've ever seen someone get so close to escaping only to still get caught. And I've got some bad news for you, Quinn. Say it with me, people. It looks like you just up! Yeah, that's right. You know it's bad when you've been in town for 2 days and you're already the local clown cult's #1 op. Now, I know it takes like a few days for the new kid to get in town and settle down, but you speed ran the small town degenerate questline faster than a competitive eater takes down corn on the cob. Getting detention on your first day might be a new school record, and now it looks like your dad was right to be worried. Maybe you should have taken his advice and waited to see if your new friends had anyone out to kill them before you joined the group. That's usually good to know, and if you hadn't been so obsessed with Cole here, then you never would have ended up in this situation in the first place. Now, running to the neighbor's house seemed like a good idea, but after seeing the dead clown on the couch, you should have realized right away that it was a trap. At least you managed to win the fight, even if your friend Janet here might have survived if you didn't pull out the pitchfork. And grabbing the keys to the truck was also a great choice, but that's where it all came full circle. I bet you never thought you'd need to know how to drive stick in the year 2025, but if you hadn't gotten arrested on literally your second day in town, then your dad would have had the chance to teach you, and you'd be burning rubber away from this farm as we speak. But now it looks like you're about to meet the friendos up close and personal, so sorry Quinn, but that's why you just up.
When Quinn finally wakes up, she finds herself in the factory surrounded by the clowns and realizes that they're all rude adults from town. Just then, Cole's father steps out of the shadows, revealing that he's been the ringleader this whole time, and he explains that they're tired of the younger generation messing up their traditions. Pulling down a curtain, he reveals that they already have Cole suspended from a rope, saying how he no longer loves his son after all the trouble that he's caused. Now all that's left to do is kill his friends and make it look like Cole was the one responsible. responsible. All of a sudden, a car crashes straight through the wall, taking out the scaffolding under Cole's feet. It's Quinn's dad, and in the chaos, the two clowns are taken out by falling debris, leaving only the three still alive. The chainsaw clown rushes towards the car, but Glenn knocks him out with the door as he tries to save Cole. At the same time, the sheriff takes aim with his shotgun, but Quinn jabs him with the cattle prod just as he takes the shot. She takes off with the sheriff chasing after her, while Arthur here goes back to deal with Cole and her father. Coming to a closet full of Friendo costumes, she locks herself inside and puts a chair against the door, but it's only a matter of time before the sheriff breaks in. There's no sign of her anywhere as he kicks open the door, but just when it looks like he's found her hiding spot, the girl appears directly behind him, jamming the cattle prod straight down his throat and zapping him to death as his head literally goes up in smoke. Arguing with his father to stall for time, Cole gets his hands free just as the man drives the car out from under him, as the doctor runs over to help. Just when it looks like he's done for, somebody steps out of the shadows and shoots the rope with a shotgun. It's good old Rust to the rescue, and the two of them finally kiss in front of everyone as Cole thanks him for saving his life. Quinn gets there just in time to see what happened, and grateful to be alive, she hugs her father as the two of them promise to try harder with their relationship. Helping each other out to the garage, they're relieved to find a tiny clown car with the keys in the ignition. But it's a stick shift, and as her father explains how it works, the chainsaw-wielding clown suddenly blocks the only exit. Remaining calm, the girl listens to her dad's instructions as she puts the pedal to the floor, hitting him so hard that he explodes in a cloud of red mist as they speed away down the open country road. Later that summer, Glenn decides to run for mayor, while Quinn gets ready to head off for college. As she's packing her things, the boys show up to wish her safe travels, and getting in her truck, she heads down the road to start the next chapter of her life, chucking a bay pin jack-in-the-box out of the window when she finds it on the back seat. In the end, that makes 6 victims down with 4 survivors, but if there's one lesson that we can all learn here, it's that if you're ever moving to a new town, just make sure that it isn't run by a bunch of killer clowns first.
Clown in a cornfield, which honestly, true, they do be in them cornfields. Loved this one, saw it at the theater with the gang, we was throwing popcorn and chicken jockey. No, I'm just kidding, but you gotta let me know down in the comments if you would have done anything differently. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe and check out that How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this one. I'm the guy. We will see you in the next episode, and say it with me, have a damn good day.